All right, today we are jumping headfirst into a really fascinating modern parable. It's a story about what it means to radically, completely accept yourself and, to truly become the master of your own life. It's called The Juster's Trial. And this quote, this is the heart of the entire thing. It's the big question and really the ultimate goal for our main character. But it's also a challenge for you and me. Could you look back at your whole life, every single triumph, every mistake, all the pain, and say, do it again? So, our story kicks off in this dead, silent clearing. The air itself seems to get thick, almost solid, and then this massive hourglass just appears out of nowhere, right in front of a figure we only know as the Jester. And right away, you know this is no ordinary object. This is it, the final gate, a test. Yeah, this is definitely not your typical hourglass. It's huge, made of obsidian and gold, and get this, the sand flows upwards, totally defying gravity. So you can see it's not here to measure time. It's here to force the confrontation with time. The moment the jester touches it, this spectral review of his entire life begins. This is the final test, the test of the third law, to see if he can truly become the creator of his own values. So what is this test exactly? Well, it's all built around this wild idea called eternal recurrence. And we're not talking about just watching your life's highlight reel like a movie. No, no. The challenge is to actually relive every single moment, every joy, every embarrassment, every bit of agony, as if it's happening for the first time, all over again. And to make things even more intense, he's not alone in this. There's this entity called the shadow, and it's basically a living, dark mirror hovering nearby. Its whole job is to make sure nothing gets skipped over. Not one moment of shame, not one act of mediocrity, not a single detail is forgotten. It's a perfect, unflinching record of everything he has ever been. Okay, so the jester touches the glass and boom, he's plunged right into his own history. He has to face the three great burdens of his past, and each one is its own distinct test. First up, he gets dragged back to the shame of his life as the camel. This whole phase represents a time of pure servitude, right? A time when he was just carrying the weight of everyone else's rules and expectations, all the thou shalts of society. But here's the twist. The test isn't to regret it. The challenge is to actually affirm this period of weakness, to see it as the necessary foundation for the strength he'd find later. And what does he do? He looks at this groveling, weaker version of himself, and instead of cringing in shame, he shouts this powerful, sacred yes right into the heart of the vision. In that moment, he transforms that past slavery into the very bedrock on which his freedom is built. So next, the sands shift and he's thrown into his life as the lion. Now, this was his rebellious phase for sure, but it was also a time of, frankly, blind cruelty and isolation. He has to relive burning every bridge, all the destruction he caused with his own powerful will. And the test here is so interesting. He's not supposed to repent or feel guilty. He has to embrace that destructive capacity as a part of his whole self. He has to own it. He has to claim the totality of his power. And so he declares that even his absolute worst mistakes, his most poisonous errors, were essential threads in the grand tapestry of what he was becoming, the overman, a totally self-mastered individual. He's affirming his own darkness without the guilt, folding it into the complete picture of who he is. And just when you think it can't get any harder, the hourglass slows way down, forcing him into his deepest, most personal suffering. He relives the sting of betrayal, a loneliness so profound it's almost physical, and that terrifying existential silence that comes when you lose your most fundamental beliefs, what the story calls the death of God. These aren't just bad memories, they're his most intimate agonies, and they're being presented to him on an endless loop. This is it. This is the climax of the whole trial. It's right here, staring into the face of his greatest pain, that the jester has this incredible breakthrough, a complete transformation in how he understands, well, everything. Here's the realization he has. Every single moment of his life is interconnected. You can't just cherry pick the good parts and discard the bad. To say yes to a single moment of happiness means you have to say yes to every moment of suffering, because it's all tied together in what the parable calls a cosmic knot. It's all or nothing. And that really brings up a question for all of us, doesn't it? When you're facing your own deepest pain, could you find it in yourself to not just endure it, but to actually laugh at its absurdity, to see it as a necessary part of a much bigger, much more beautiful picture? Because that is exactly what the jester does. He laughs. And it's not some sad, broken little laugh. The text calls it a malicious joy. It's this triumphant, knowing laughter from someone who finally understands the necessity of his own suffering. And this very act, this joyful affirmation, is so powerful, it literally shatters the glass of the hourglass and ends the trial. So the trial is over. But you've got to understand, the jester didn't just pass some test. He has achieved a completely new way of being. He has fundamentally changed. And now we circle all the way back to that opening quote. Only now it's not a question anymore, is it? It's a command. It's become his personal code, the third law. It's the law of a being who is totally sovereign over their own time, someone who can look at the entirety of their life and joyfully command it to happen all over again. So, what does this new person look like? Well, he's basically integrated all three of his past selves. The camel, that burdened spirit, that's now his unshakable foundation. The lion, his rebellious side, that's now his power. And through it all, he's finally reached the state of the child, this innocent, creative spirit for whom life is just a joyful, self-rolling wheel of play. And remember the shadow, that dark mirror that showed him all his flaws? Well, that conflict is over. By accepting every single part of himself, the jester has transformed his own darkness. The shadow is no longer some enemy pointing a finger at him. It's a silent companion, a partner in the beautiful dance of existence. So the big question is, what now? His long journey of stillness and reflection, this intense trial, it's all over. The jester has a brand new purpose, and it is absolutely time for action. The really crucial thing to get here is that his transformation is completely internal. He doesn't need to go hide out on a mountain home to find himself anymore. Why? Because he is the home of his own spirit. He carries that strength, that wholeness inside of him, no matter where he goes. And with that, the story leaves us on this incredibly powerful note of anticipation. His time of quiet becoming is done. Now he's ready. He's ready to come down from the mountain and truly live. The greatest stillness is over. The greatest play is about to begin. Which, of course, leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question that turns this entire parable right back on all of us. If your life, with all its joy, all its sorrow, every triumph, and every single mistake, if it were a play, could you stand there at the very end, look back at the whole thing and command an encore? Could you truly say, once more,